Welcome to Those Guys Sports. It is your boy Mike, and this is my post NBA draft 2023 conversation. Now, in having this conversation with you all, I'm going to talk some whatever happened with the NBA draft, and then I'm going to kind of focus on the Raptor side of things. Let's start off. Victor Wembanyama went number one overall to the San Antonio Spurs. That was like everyone knew that was going to happen. Nothing was going to change from that. The way things were going, nothing was going to change. Victor Wembanyama has the potential to be a future All NBA player. I made a video recently about the fact that he has to win 4 rings. He has to, because the hype that's been going around for Victor Wembanyama, he would have to win that much, and it's unfortunate. I think it's a little bit much to have that much, that much belief in a player, but it happens. It happens with LeBron, it happened with Tim, it happened with Shaq. Allen Iverson took his team to the NBA Finals, but all these things, that's what the people are going to look for. That's what they're going to want from a Victor Wembanyama. Two went to Brandon Miller. I think some of us predicted it was going to go to Brandon Miller, just because the way the Hornets were kind of talking. So you believe the Charlotte Hornets were going to pick up Brandon Miller. I personally feel like they should have got a scoop. Now, in watching Brandon's game, I do think he's good, but do I ever think he's going to be a number one option? I don't think so. I don't think Brandon Miller will be a number one option, but that's not a bad thing. Like, the thing is, there's only a few number one options in the league. There's honestly like 7 number one options. People act like there's 20. No, there isn't. There's like 7 number one options. But I think Brandon Miller can be a great number 2, potentially an amazing number 3 on a championship team. Mind you, always think about this. Anyone who wins the NBA title, in most cases, the best player is like 26, 27. And so is the second best player. It's never the 22-year-old that's going to win a title. It never happens like that. Last time was like Magic and then like Tim Duncan. All having this like top end talent, being this young, it doesn't normally happen. But so I think Brandon Miller it's a safe pick for them. Once again, I think he can, pair well. The question is LaMelo Ball a number one option on the championship team? I don't believe so. That's up for Charlotte and Michael Jordan to make horrible decisions like they've made before. But that's the one thing I would not do. I would not say that LaMelo Ball is by any chance a number one pick. I'm also looking at my computer to kind of see some of the draft picks so I don't forget anyone. So Scoot Henderson was 3. We all kind of knew that was going to happen. The question is, like, what is Portland going to do? Are they going to trade Dame? Or are they going to trade Scoot? I think everyone thought they were going to trade Scoot. They're going to trade his 3rd pick. They're going to go get Jaylen Brown or Karl Anthony Towns or maybe Paul George. I think the person I thought they were going to try to get is Paul George. The person I think they should get is Paul George, just because he's kind of the wing that somebody like Damian Lillard would need on the team, honestly. But yeah, I think Scoot's going to be a good player. I think Scoot's going to be good. I actually think I think he has star potential. So I definitely believe in Scoot Henderson. But I think it's going to be good. Do I think him and Dame? I don't know. I don't know if Dame wants to play with him. I think this is the year. I think they're going to sit down with Dame, and Dame's going to be like, I want a contender. I want a contender. And like, well, Dame, we have a Scoot. We have a Shaden Sharp. I think we're about to build for the future. Like, they already have the talent in Scoot and Shaden Sharp. Just trade. And then if I'm Portland as well, I'm looking at Anthony Simons and I'm trying to see who would want him. What team would want someone like an Anthony Simons? I think Toronto, if I talk about Toronto's side, they can go for an Anthony Simons. If you can't get a Dame, see if you can get an Anthony Simons. With his contract, you may have to trade like a couple pieces, but maybe you get a couple pieces to bring a starting level shooting guard on the team. Of course, the defense is not that great, but let's see what you can do. 4 and 5. I'll talk about both of them. I think it's special that twin brothers went 4 and 5 in the NBA draft with Amen Thompson and Asir Thompson. Shout outs to them. Shout outs to their mom, to their father. I don't know their parents' story, but shout outs to the parents. I know their brother played a key role as well. Shout outs to the brother as well. Just the family as a whole to get even one person into the draft is amazing. Not to get 2 people and it goes back to back in the NBA draft. Shout outs to them. I'll go once Orlando Magic picked Anthony Black. See, when I watched him in Arkansas, I didn't see much, to be honest. But then you realize that the Arkansas, the way they played, was to be more of a team oriented, and he did actually play well within the team. And I do think he could be a solid point guard for this team. Now, Magic do have a lot of guards, so people are already predicting somebody like Jalen Suggs or Fultz to get traded. We'll have to wait and see. I do think there's potential of all that because Orlando, you don't. This may sound weird, but you don't want too much people with upside talent because with upside talent, then you got to play everyone. You have like your number one guy in well, two guys really. I'm not sure if we would pick Franz as a number one guy. But you have your guys in Orlando, so you don't want to, Pablo and Franz. Like Pablo's your number one, then your Franz as your number two. Then you kind of want to put pieces around them to make them better. I think Anthony Black can do that. The last person I'm really going to talk about in the top like 10, so to speak, is Bilal Koulibaly. I think everyone's going to try to figure out how to say his last name, but I think it's Bilal Koulibaly from France. He's a project. Like he's a project. You don't know. He has so much more work to do. He's not a great shooter. He's a good defender. But you just believe with his height and him being as young as he is, you put him in a solid organization and you make him better. Now, is Washington that organization? I don't know. With them getting Jordan Poole's probably going to score like 25, 26 points a game. I want everyone to realize that him scoring 27 points a game doesn't make him this like superstar player. He's not. He's not. Jordan Poole's not a superstar player. They're not going to win any games. It's going to be like what honestly what Bradley Beal did just once again. So really, they're a team that really hasn't changed. But I think the way Washington should go, you look at Bilal and you go like, is this the future of our franchise? And that's how I would see it if I was Washington. I'm looking at Bilal Koulibaly if he's the future of our franchise. Mind you, it was like a trade between Indiana and Washington. That's why they got Bilal. But if I'm Washington, Bilal's my guy. He's the one I'm really trying to figure out. Does he have the talent to be a number one guy? And if so, let's see what we can do with that. And mind you, Washington is going to have some picks in the future. They'll probably have a top three pick next year. So pairing someone up with a young player like Koulibaly could be good. Then you have, Jarris Walker, a good defensive player. Taylor Hendricks going to Utah, my second favorite team. Great. I like that move. Casey Wallace is someone I know the Raptors were going for. So it kind of sucks that they couldn't get that. I do think, got traded to OKC. I think now OKC just has another good, talented player on their roster. So shout out to them. Jed Howard, I don't know much about his game, but if he is a former NBA player's son, this guy's gonna have a 15 to 20-year career, like guaranteed. He's always gonna know the right things to do, and that's because of his father as well. So like I think shout out to that. Derek Lively, the second, going to Oklahoma City. That got traded to Dallas. Now the real pick is the pick that like I'm probably gonna spend the most time on, right? For the Raptors, we had the potential of going for Cam Whitmore, who dropped down, if we talk about the Raptors, but let's talk about Cam Whitmore. He dropped down because some people didn't really like the interview process with him. Some people felt like he was potentially, and there's reports, right, that like his workouts with certain teams weren't great. His workout with his specific agency was better, but the workouts with teams weren't. He didn't bold well. There's potential some injury history. There's so much like rumors around him, and he dropped pretty much like he was. People were saying he was going to go fourth or fifth. People did believe I think like Amon was going to be fourth, but thought like he was a perfect fit for Detroit. A lot of people picked Cam Whitmore to be perfect choice. I believe Jay Billis said, on pure raw talent and NBA body, he was probably top three in NBA body. Like so, this Cam Whitmore was someone that many people believed in. Didn't work out for him. So yeah, now the Raptors could have chosen Jordan Hawkins, one of the best shooters, if not the second best shooter, to the guy that we actually picked. Kobe Buffkin was a lot of people a fan of that. I know when the mock drafts first came out, and I thought maybe that the Raptors should get Cavante George, a bucket getter. Once again, probably similar to like a Gary Trent Jr. So that's someone that I thought they could have got. Once again, they could have got a Cam Whitmore as well, who ended up going to Houston at 20. So shout outs to him and doing that. But Grady Dick, that's going to be the new Toronto Raptor. I'm happy. I am happy. I think I said it in my previous video. He's a guy that I would want. A 6'7", 6'8", I would say he's a guard, maybe a small forward. Um, shoots the ball, best shooter in the whole draft. That was the Raptors need, and I'll dive into, we'll talk about that. You know what? We have a whole section to talk about the Toronto Raptors, and that's why I'm really making this video. Let's just finish like some of the picks that I wanted to talk about. I really like the Lakers pick. I really like the Miami Heat pick. They pick guys who I think can play right now, and I believe, especially with Miami, they picked a senior who I think is going to fit the Heat culture. I think he fits the Heat culture. I think that's probably the best pick and for that organization that they could make. Sometimes there could be more talented guys, so to speak, but Jamie, I don't want to mess up his last name, but he is a good pick. Jalen Shafino going to the Lakers, once again, a good pick for them as well. So yeah, I think both. I just think, especially the Miami Heat pick, they picked a guy who's not going to be a star. Like they picked a guy who, and he could be. Like I'm just like his projection isn't to be a star. He could be in the league for 14 years, 15 years, 16 years, just being a quality, another like Udonis Haslam type player who helps the team, works hard, work harder than everyone. Sometimes you need guys like that. And I think he's the type of player that could have played in the finals like today. So shout outs to them in that pick. I do think that the Charlotte Hornets, I like the Nick Smith Jr. pick. He did fall down a lot. He was someone that potentially had top 10 potential, but there were some injuries there. Of course, I love the Chris Murray pick. I think his brother is one of the best young talents in the league because I believe that, with him and his brother Keegan, well, Keegan is the brother who plays for Sacramento Kings. With Chris, there's just a lot of talent there. They can shoot the ball. They play the ball well. They're like fundamental, and I think sometimes on a team you need fundamental. You need the Harrison Barnes as much as you need like the Brandon Ingrams. Like you just need guys who are willing to do the dirty work, who are willing to give you 16 points, give you good defense, rebound the ball. And I think already Chris Murray can do that with the Portland Trailblazers, who I don't know what they're gonna do, what they plan on doing with their future, but I already love their future. If they trade Dame, which they should, maybe they'll get some other young talent. But if they trade a Dame, you still have, you have Shaden Sharp, you have Scoot Henderson, and you have Chris Murray. Like you have your 1, you have your 2, and your potential 3 or 4. And I think that's very solid. That'd be a great team to have. Um, yeah, and shout outs to the Canadians who made it. So Oliver Prosper from Quebec. He's going to go to Sacramento Kings. I believe that's another wing that they can have. So that's shout outs to him. Shout outs to Leonard Miller, another Canadian from Scarborough. Goes to the San Antonio Spurs. But then now I think got traded to Minnesota. So that'll be a nice bench guy for them. And I Kamante Johnson, someone who, if you don't know his history or his story, he fell down on the court. He collapsed, not fell down, the man collapsed on the court. And it's just, by the grace of the man above that he's able to play. So shout outs to him. And lastly, the person I want to talk about is Imani Bates. Shout outs to Imani Bates, a guy who I told my friends 3 years ago about this guy. I'm like, Imani Bates is the future. That's the guy they're about to put the league on. When LeBron leaves, it's this Imani Bates guy. He is flashes of Kevin Durant. He can score the ball. He can drive to the basket. Has good handles. Can play okay defense. Like all this stuff about him was like he was such a highlight. Then not only that, like he was on the cover of Slam magazine, on the cover of like I think Sports Illustrated. He was on multiple NBA covers as the next future. And this is when he's in high school. Didn't happen. This was supposed to be his draft. The crazy thing is, this is supposed to be his like he's supposed to be the number 1 overall pick. If you did mock drafts like 3, 4 years ago, Monty Bates is the number 1 pick. You know, he's a guy that if they were allowing guys to come out of high school, would have been a top 5 pick. And unfortunately, things happened. Didn't have a great year in Memphis. Then went to Eastern Michigan, and that was okay. He played fine over there. So it's just one of those things that it sucks. And sometimes the hype gets too much. It gets too quick. Things happen. People start looking down on you. But shouts out to him for getting drafted. Now I gotta talk about the Raptors. That's the team I want. I think getting Grady Dick, once again, I think it was a solid move. He's a shooter, best shooter in the whole draft. Um, and having him further proves, I think this team's going to run it back. And also, I think it further proves that like you need to put guys around a Scotty and around a Pascal who can shoot the ball. Now, defensively, he's great, but from what I see, he's a better team defender. That's what we're going to need, a better team defender. But yeah, overall, I think this team and what they can do with a Grady Dick, he'll probably come off the bench. He's just an added shooter that they need. The Raptors needed an added shooter. They got exactly what they need. I know some Raptor fans probably wanted a Kobe Buffkin, and potentially, what if Cam Whitmore was there, then you go for him. But you need the shooter. You go for the shooter. Like you go for the shooter, the guy with high basketball IQ, and that's what Grady Dick had. He seems like he's a personality. You check his TikToks, you can tell he likes to have a lot of fun. He already said that him and Scotty have already spoken. They FaceTimed each other. I'm pretty sure the fans are gonna like him pretty quickly. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be a All NBA second team player. Like I've already thought in my head, if he gets minutes, he'll be an All NBA second teamer because his ability to shoot the ball, and he's only going to get better. To me, he's a tall Tyler Hero, maybe a better version of like a Duncan Robinson. Mind you, he's so young, so he's only going to get better. But I believe in it. He believes in himself, which is good. He's already talked about Drake and how he wants, Drake to follow him. I think Drake already did follow him. He's a good player. I like the fact that the Raptors went this way. You constantly are seeing reports about, they should trade Pascal or this and that with Pascal. And you hear reports that Pascal's not going to sign an extension. The only team he wants to sign an extension for is the Toronto Raptors. Now, let's be honest with ourselves. This could be the same thing like that Bradley Beal said when Bradley Beal's like, oh, no, I want to stay in Washington, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually, once he gets to the bag, then he leaves. I don't think Pascal can get all that money he's looking for if he gets traded. So I think he has to kind of be with the Raptors to make sure he gets that full level of money, so especially because he's an NBA player. So I don't know if that's, well, maybe the where he's trying to go with it. But I love Pascal. And I think you keep him. I think when an all NBA player wants to stay, you keep him. I think it's ridiculous to want to trade a player who wants to stay with you, especially for an organization who doesn't get picks. Like they're good with their drafts, but they're not getting, Bradley Beal's not saying I want to come to Toronto. Jimmy Butler's not saying I want to come to Toronto. You don't get a lot of players saying that they want to come to Toronto. Otto Porter came to Toronto, didn't play. Otto Porter came to Toronto because his wife is Canadian. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're not getting the superstar guy to come to Toronto. So if we're not getting the superstar guy to come to Toronto, then we should do whatever we have to do to keep the guys we have, and then hopefully make some trades around the margins to keep that said player and then bring more talent around them. And then people in the league can say, like, maybe I want to be. But is Dame Lillard saying, yeah, I would love to go to Toronto? I don't know. I don't know if Dame is saying no with Toronto. And then if you bring Dame to Toronto, who are you trading? Maybe they're going to be like, well, give us OG. We want OG. We want multiple guys. But I also think, like, it may be the case that if you trade Dame, you may not get a lot for him. You may not be trading multiple draft picks for him because of the fact that it's like a Bradley Beal situation. And when it comes to draft picks, and how some people feel the Toronto Raptors are being too, they overvalue their guys. The Grizzlies just traded 2 draft picks for Marcus Smart, 2 first-round draft picks, unprotected, for Marcus Smart. Okay, then we're gonna trade for OG and get like 3 and like 2 pick swaps. Like OG, some people can believe he's the Aaron Gordon to their team, that missing piece. If you believe he's the missing piece, how much is he worth? Let's go, right? Same thing with trading Pascal. All these things factor. Shout out to also the Toronto Raptors also got a 2-way player from I think it's Washington, Kansas State. I'm gonna forget his name completely, but he's a guy that's, he's only 5'8", which kind of sucks because he's short. The Raptors clearly like certain players. And, but still, that being said, he tweeted out something that everyone loved, Marcus Noel. And he was pretty well for the NCAA tournament, March Madness. He did really well, had a game where he had 19 assists. So this guy's good. And he has a lot of heart. So it's almost like we're about to draft a new Fred VanVleet with a lot of heart, a lot of promise. We have to kind of wait and see, see what's going to happen with this two-way player. But I kind of like it. We got a two-way player. We got Grady Dick. This team, I think they're definitely building to run it back, and they're okay with that. And a team like Miami is also going to run it back as well, because the one thing teams don't want to do is that they're not trying to trade multiple draft picks to just be back in the middle. And they're either going to want to tank and with multiple young talents that they can grow, like OKC, and even Orlando, or like, but you're not trying to trade picks. Like, you just look at Chicago. Chicago doesn't know what to do. They don't have picks. They've lost like 3 draft picks. Like, you don't want to do. Look at Brooklyn. They don't have their own. Like, Houston doesn't have their own pick. Like, not having your own pick sucks, because that means you have no control of what your team does. And you definitely want to be the Phoenix Suns. I think what they're doing is like malpractice. Like, they're not gonna have, they have no picks until 2030. And then even if they have to start trading, their players to get some picks back, and who knows what that's gonna look like. That's its own situation. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about. I actually really like what the Raptors did. I hope Raptor fans can appreciate it. Also, I hope Raptor fans can realize that, you know, we were so bad for so long. So it's kind of okay to be good. I know last year was mediocre. I don't want to put a lot of that on Nick Nurse, but I don't think a team is going to do well when their, coach is constantly berating them. Now, next week, we'll have to wait and see what the Raptors are going to do. There's so much things that they can do. Fred VanVleet, extension, is that going to happen or not? OG extension, and Pascal probably won't. But all those other cases, we can still trade Gary Trent. Thaddy Young's contract has to be either guaranteed or we release him. So I'm curious to see what they do. But we got Grady Dick, and I think that's a good next step. I think once again we got another shooter to be with a Pascal and Gary and sorry, Pascal. I'm looking at Gary, Pascal and Scotty, and I think that's good for the team because they need more shooting around them. That's why, it sucks. I really kind of wanted Porzingis. I made that video, and there's another thing that happened, but I really wanted a Porzingis. I kind of almost wanted him a little bit more than Pirtle because of this fact that he can space the floor. Would I want to pay him a lot of money? No, that's not a thing. But it sucks because you're hoping Pirtle can have a better shot, but he doesn't. He's more of a rim protector, plays down the line, kind of things like that. But yeah, so that's what the Raptors did, and overall great draft. The only thing I would want the NBA to do is not make the first round go 3 hours. I think we could have made it quicker. I know the players were hugging their parents, and I think they really tried to show family in this year's draft. But damn, there was a lot of time that it was a long time between drafts and between picks, and it was almost like too much. And then so much trading. I know one person said like it'd be better if the trades are official, let them just wear that team's hat, because this is almost getting like ridiculous. Where they're wearing like an Indiana hat, but I'm actually going to Washington. Like, why do all that? But yeah, that's my thoughts. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Like, subscribe. There's more to come, and I'll talk to you guys again. Peace.